I have some awesome news for you. You're not gonna believe this. We found one. A real one.
My name is William Afton, and I've been locked for eternity inside this Springtrap.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Walden's Workshop. I'm your host Justin, and today we're going to be making Springtrap from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Today's video is very special as we're celebrating the channel reaching over 10,000 subscribers. Seriously, thank you all so much to everyone who has subscribed. It's mind-blowing that over 10,000 people have watched my videos and thought they were good enough to consider subscribing to the channel. That is so awesome, and I really appreciate all of you. Because of this amazing milestone, I've been working on this video for months now. Planning out the idea, filming and editing. I even posted a poll teasing at this video. As some of you may know, I have made tons of costumes and puppets based off Five Nights at Freddy's over the years. But for whatever reason, I've never built Springtrap, let alone anyone from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. And even though Movie Rabbit is similar to Springtrap, that doesn't count, guys. That's not Springtrap. That's from the movie. So what better time than my 10,000 sub special to show you guys how to make your own Springtrap. And guess what? I've created a pattern that you can print out at home. So if you want to make your own Springtrap mask just like this video, there's a link to the pattern in the description. You can print it out and cut it out and follow this tutorial along to make your own Springtrap mask. This is the second episode in my series, The Blueprints. Full tutorials where I tell you guys the materials, measurements, and we can build the mask step by step together. Right now, there will be timestamps on screen to skip ahead to the section you'd like to see. If you're thinking of printing the pattern and following along at home, go ahead and skip to the timestamp on screen now. So, without further ado, let's build Springtrap. Here are the materials you'll need for this project. Hot glue gun, hot glue sticks, 3mm EVA foam, 5mm EVA foam, puzzle piece floor foam, or 12mm EVA foam, 2-inch project foam, or 1-inch or half-inch project foam will work too. 1.8 styrofoam spheres. Green foam sheet. Green fleece fabric. The particular fleece I got is called Anti-Fill Plush Fleece in a color called Periodot. But unfortunately the store I got it from is going out of business. So, you can find like a blanket on Amazon or something in the green that you'd like, and that'll work just as well. Black paint, black spray paint, metallic spray paint, red spray paint, plastic skull mask, glazing spot putty, glass cabochons or googly eyes, cutting pliers, or a Dremel. Okay. For this video, I'm going to do something a little bit different from the last blueprints video, where I'm going to try to do this like over the shoulder kind of like view, if that makes sense. So I have this 3D model of Springtrap that I got 3D printed, and we're going to use this to make a pattern. And you may be asking yourself, well, how are we at home going to be able to make a pattern if we don't have a 3D printed Springtrap? Well, I'm going to make the pattern, and then in the video description you should be able to find a Google Drive link with the pattern that you can print out at home, and you can make your own Springtrap using that pattern. I'm only going to do half of the face because his face, for the most part, is symmetrical. So how we're going to start is we're going to take a piece of aluminum foil, and what we're just going to do is wrap it around the front of Springtrap's face here. Now I don't want to press too hard. I don't want to get all of the like damaged, withering detail, if that makes sense. I just want the general shape. Now we have a pretty good to the model kind of tinfoil wrap. And now we're going to use some duct tape to cover the half of the mask that we are going to use. You can kind of see the general face shape of Springtrap in there. So now all we have to do is kind of just draw out where the features are. So look, there's where his nose is, there's where his eye is. This is where his teeth start, so we're gonna have to cut that off kind of. And then I'm trying to figure out where the center of his face is. There we go. So now we have half of Springtrap's head. I should be able to just pull this guy out. So check it out. Now we have Springtrap's head's shape. All we have to do now is cut out our outline here. Okay, so now check it out. We have a half of Springtrap's face here. We might need to make a few adjustments, but otherwise I think it's pretty good. Check that out. And now our next task is deciding how we are going to flatten this pattern. Okay, we need to go from 3D to 2D. We're gonna put it back on our model here. So the best places to kind of dart our pattern, I think, are gonna be along the nose here somehow, like down this crease where the nose connects to the mask. Ripple off. I think we'll go like right here somewhere. We might do one right in here somewhere. We just got to try to make it flat. And look at that. Just like that, we've already flattened the front of the face. It's already flat, right? Just by cutting some notches and darts to allow it to flatten out. I think we'll cut one right in here. It seems there wants to be one like right here-ish. Now, of course, we can totally go the route of making this into different pieces. I'm trying to avoid that as much as possible for now. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Oh, the muzzle is going to do this overlap thing. So we're definitely going to have to make the muzzle a separate piece here. But yeah, check it out. So if we fold it back together, that's the muzzle, right? Fold it out, flat piece of paper. Same thing with the rest of the head. I think this is pretty good. So there we go. We have our flat pattern. And now our biggest thing is to try to transfer this to paper. And what we're going to do is I'm going to put the pattern down into the printer like this, as flat as we can get it. And now I'm going to make a copy of the pattern. First, I'm going to make this pattern a little bit better. Kind of like that. You can kind of see there's now a thick outline. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out this from the paper. Ta-da! We have our pattern cut out. What we're going to do, decide how many pieces we cut it into, okay? And before we cut it into any pieces, we're going to draw exactly where we're going to make our cuts, and then we're going to draw lines where it connects, okay? So we can say the front is here, the back is here, the top, bottom, middle, where the ear connects. It's all like that, right? There we go. Now we have all our pieces labeled. Look at that. That is going to be our piece set. And now, I still have to draw the dart lines. I just drew a bunch of dash marks and trying to figure out how this will go back together. The arrows show me that it goes like this. That's how it connects. I made a little curve up in this piece, only because all these three pieces, they have like a continuous center line, and I just wanted to continue that. So now we'll just cut them all. Now we have all our pieces. The next step is we are going to have to decide how much we want to enlarge these pieces to fit our mask, you know? Okay, so quick update. I put the whole mask together, and then I said, it's way too big. My biggest issue with the costume head right now is that I think it's just too big. These tiny pieces need to be upscaled by 228%. Okay, we have the new patterns printed out at the correct size, so we're just gonna cut them out. We have all of our pieces now, and it all goes together just like that. So now all I'm going to do is use some tape to tape the pieces together. So now we have our full pattern together, and we can start drawing it out onto some EVA. So I'm going to try to use this scrap piece first. And all we have to do is take the pattern, something like this, right? We press down, line the Sharpie up with the edges of our pattern here. And there we go. Now we've transferred our pattern onto EVA. Just do the same thing with the other side. There we go. Oh, whoops. There we go. Now we have our second half. And then for like the big head piece, I'm going to grab this bigger piece of EVA here. We're doing one half, and then we're doing the flip side, which is the other half. So we can make a full mask. Okay, I have the pattern drawn out. I'm going to cut them out. Same with the pieces for the muzzle. And as I cut them out, I'm going to plug in the hot glue gun. So that way we can start gluing once all the pieces are cut out. So let's go ahead and cut out the patterns from the EVA foam. We have now finished cutting out all the different pieces of the mask. We have the two sides, and we have the two sides of the muzzle. So let's go ahead and start gluing the mask together. Take a corner like this. You take the hot glue gun, put a little bit of glue on the edge, like right here, and then you just close up the seam. Well, then once you know it's dry, should hold together, and then all we have to do is do that for everything. When we start to put these pieces together, sometimes it won't be like super flat like when you glue the corners together, and so what I like to do is I'll just take whatever's the smallest edge, and I will just make it so it's a smooth center, you know, and then I'll be able to glue it together nicer, if that makes sense. So check it out. We have our two halves and the front muzzle. I'm going to go ahead and flip the muzzle inside out like this. So now it's the wrong way around. Then I'm going to go ahead and glue it to the front of the mask. I'm going to do it in 2 parts. Alright, before we continue with that, I do want to do one thing. Some of the parts kind of don't really line up like really nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim this part down just a little bit so it connects nicely. Everything else seems pretty good. Same thing with this side. We're going to check that the center seam connects up really nicely. This side turned out really nice, so it doesn't need as much trimming. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to glue the muzzle. We're only going to go halfway, and we're going to start with the center of the mask here. You're going to notice there's just a little bit of overlap on the muzzle here, and that's okay because later on I'm going to come back and just trim it a little bit to fix it. But now that the 2 fronts are glued on, we can go ahead and flip the muzzle correctly. And then we're going to go ahead and start gluing the center of the mask together. Alright, here we have the mask of Springtrap. Check it out. Of course, on the pattern, we didn't make where the eyes are going to go. We're going to decide that in a little bit. But before we do that, what I'm going to do is I am going to create a little, just a very, very small, like, piece like this, a brace, I guess. I put it right here on the center line down the middle of the face. And I'm going to do the same thing where there's a little rectangle. And I'm going to put this one right beneath where the nose like seam is, right here. I do want to fix that issue of we can see that it kind of I don't know if you guys can see it, but it comes down to like this point, and then it comes out and it doesn't fit flush with the rest of the head here. Before I cut, I'm going to sketch out what I want to cut. So I want something like this line here, where it just comes straight across. Alright, that just looks a little bit better. Now it's pretty flush with it, unlike the other side. And so we're just going to mimic that on the other side. Just eyeballing it. I think that turned out pretty good. There we go. Now let's get this flat end. Now we have to decide where the eyes are going to go. These are 2-inch, actually they're not, they're 1.8 inch styrofoam spheres. And what I'm going to do is we're going to take the scissors and just poke into it, right? And cut one in half. I have actually already cut one in half, right? So here's the sphere. You just take your scissors slowly and push it into, and then you snip, and then you push it into and snip, and you go all the way around, push in between, snip, all the way around until you can get the 2 pieces to come in half, if that makes sense. So these are going to be Springtrap's eyes. First we need to decide where his eyes sit on the mask. Looking at our model here, I'm going to say that Springtrap's eyes sit right on this line of the muzzle. First, I need to decide what's the distance between his eyes, and usually I like to go with like an inch. So for this mask, I'm going to do an inch between the eyes. So I'm going to say, okay, here's the center. These 2 lines are an inch apart. And I'm just going to continue these lines all the way down and pretty much all the way up. Like that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and decide how far out his eyes go. He's going to sit here and here inside the mask. So we know that Springtrap's eye needs to go a little bit farther than the eye is actually going to be. Like that. And let's check with the ruler how far is that? It's about 2 1/4. So 2 1/4, perfect. And now we can turn these into lines as well that just go up the mask. There we go, just like that. Next thing, we need to know how far up Springtrap's eyes go. And we can say that we're probably going to go to the top of the eyeball. So just using our eyes as reference. So we'll just eyeball. How far across. Now, let's go ahead. I like to sketch out where the nose is going to go. So I think the nose is going to come up here like that. So I think the nose will sit here. Springtrap's eyes are going to sit in this proximity somewhere. As I'm looking at our model here, we can see that Springtrap's eyes are kind of like sloped down. They're not like perfect circles, right? And we're going off of the parts that aren't like withered away. There's a crease in here, a crease in there. We can see that it is like an oval shape almost, and then it is like the oval is kind of tilted, you know? So we're going to try to draw that out for the eyes here. So I'm going to start with where I think the eyes should end. What's the lowest point? Around here is the lowest point. Continuing with that idea that the eyes kind of ovals. We're going to go ahead and say, okay. Something like that almost. I'm drawing on Springtrap's what it'll look like with eyes in his sockets. That's where Springtrap's eyes are gonna sit, roughly. And I think that looks quite good. Okay, so taking a look at our model, taking a look at our eyepiece here, you're gonna notice that I think we need to make the sockets a lot bigger. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take our marker again and just make them bigger. Of course, we don't want to go inward because we want to keep this middle distance. So we're just going to go outward. Maybe like that. I think that's pretty good. Actually, it looks a little bit better, I think. So let's go ahead and cut out the eyes. I'm going to try to cut in between my lines. These lines are definitely solid. This line right here where it's only one of them. But I'm not too sure if this big size is correct. I know the smaller size is too small, right? But I don't want to cut too big. If I need to make it bigger, I can make it bigger. So let's go ahead and just cut them out. So again, let's check the eye size on the other socket. Not sure if I talked about this yet. I'm pretty sure I did. But I bought this Red Skull mask. Not Red Skull from the like Marvel movies, but it is a skull mask that is painted red. This like bloody red. And so of course we're gonna use this for Afton, the like corpse, right, in the suit. So we want to make sure that we can wear our skeleton mask. And then of course we're going to wear the costume head on top of it. Like that. Look at that. I quite like that. Quite like it a lot. Of course, we need to figure out how we're going to be able to see and have the eyeballs here. I think what we're going to do is kind of glue the eyes a little bit up so we can see right here out of the bottom. If that makes sense. Of course, we're gonna like update this a little bit. I want it to look more like Afton's like corpse. Not to a degree where I'm changing it too much. I still want it to look like a skull. You know how the mummies in a mummy look, or the mummy, kind of like that, where it's like, you know, he's been like decaying, but he's also been preserved in the Springtrap costume. So that's what we're gonna try to do. So I have decided I am going to make the eyes just a hair bigger. Just a little bit. Not all the way to the bigger sketch, but just trimming a little bit. So let's move on to the jaw. The jaw itself, I was kind of on the fence on either eyeballing it or making a pattern. And of course, for the sake of this video and trying to make it pretty easy to follow along, I think I will go ahead and make a pattern to a degree. But what we want to do is we're not going to pattern the whole thing for the most part, because one, I couldn't remove the Springlocks off the jaw piece, so I had to print it with the Springlocks attached, and that kind of messes up the back of this print. But that's okay, because we are going to cut a big hole into the bottom of the mouthpiece, because how else are we going to be able to put it on, right? Let's go ahead and start with some tinfoil. I think I'm actually just going to use like a portion of this. Here we have our thing wrapped in tinfoil. We're only going to focus on the right side, our right, Springtrap's left. We're going to focus on the right side, and we're going to go ahead and use our duct tape. So let's go ahead and, so I'm marking pretty much where I think the middle is, which is down this center line. I think the hole for our head, we're going to go ahead and do something like that, you know. And then, of course, there's the Springlocks back here, so I'm not too worried about the back of the head. And, yeah, so let's go ahead, take all the tinfoil off. Let's go ahead and cut our piece here. Something like this. Okay, I think for the most part it's pretty good, but it could be just a little bit better if we were able to, figure out where the teeth are and the curvature of the mouth here. Alright, yeah, I quite like that. So let's go ahead and try to flatten this out, of course. So I just went ahead and printed out a big version of the piece, and of course we'll just cut it out, and then that's it. That's what it looks like, right? So of course let's take some EVA and cut this thing out, right? You know what I just realized? In theory, you could use this pattern, theoretically, to build Spring Bonnie, like, you know, regular Spring Bonnie. Because it's just, you know, this is, if I cover this yellow, you know, then it's Spring Bonnie already. So, this is like a dual pattern right here, you know? That's a pretty good video idea. I think I might reuse this pattern and make a movie Spring Bonnie or something like that, you know? If that's something interesting to you guys, like, oh yeah, reuse the same pattern and make a different character. If you guys want to see that, let me know. I might be interested in doing that. So now we have our two pieces together. Let's go ahead and cut the slits for them. Okay, so now we've cut all the pieces out. Let's go ahead and start gluing it together. Alright, so here we have our jaw piece. Let's take a little gander of what that looks like. So of course we have the head piece of Springtrap, and then we have the jaw of Springtrap, right? And of course you have to consider all of his teeth. Overall, I think it's okay. I think it needs to be like, you see how it kind of like bends up? All we have to do is really just kind of straighten out how this comes together here. I'm just eyeballing it a little bit. A little. I think what's missing, and I think the biggest issue with this piece is just the mid connection point. I think it needs to be like, as I would cut it like a little slit, like a triangle, just in the center here. Like that. Just so the jaw kind of comes closer together. Let me just glue that really quickly. I think that's way better. Look at that. Spring body mask. Spring body jaw. I think I'm pretty happy with that. I think what I might do is I might make the curve for this bottom piece a little bit better. Cut from the corner here and just make these corners kind of be a little bit better, and then kind of fade them off there. So kind of like that, and like that. There we go. I think that's a little bit better. Just a little bit. Alright, let's move on. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these, I'm going to make more rectangles and braces out of the excess foam, right? So we're going to take a little rectangle of EVA, and we're going to just bend this piece how we want it, kinda. Really good like that. So now we can go ahead and start with the ears. For the ears, we're gonna just take some measurements of the prop here, of the 3D print here. Alright, so here are our measurements, right? This is the width of the inner ear, this is the length of the inner ear, and then this outside rectangle is the width and height of the outer ear, like the biggest piece. And so all we have to do is put this in the printer and upscale it by 228%. So now we have our printout. And then all we have to do, really, is what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the ears out of craft foam. It's kind of this like spongy like material that is used in couches, cushions, and stuff, you know. I think what I'll do is I'm going to make it out of this 2-inch thick foam. What we're first going to do is we're going to go ahead and cut out our new pattern piece. Now remember, with this rectangle, we're going to want to create 3 pieces. Because Springtrap's missing the top of one of his ears. And so, for us, we just need the 3 ear pieces. Alright, we have our pieces drawn onto the foam. And now all we have to do is really cut them out. Now there's not really a good way of cutting through thick foam like this. What I like to do is I'll just like kind of stab from the side and then start cutting like halfway through. So I can keep a straight line and then come back and cut through the rest. So now we have our 3 earpieces look like this. I'm going to go ahead and try to straighten out some of these edges. So we're going to decide what piece is going to be each part of the ear. I think these 2 pieces are going to be the full ear, and this piece is going to be the kind of broken ear. What we're first going to do is go ahead and draw out the front of the ear. Again, it just means we're drawing out that kind of like oval shape that the ears have. And then for the last earpiece, bottom has rounded, and then we need to create the point to the top. Now, as I'm looking at it, right, top of the ear, it's like cut into thirds almost. Just the middle one is a little bit wider. And that's going to be our top of the ear here. Then we're able to kind of narrow it down and have it come all the way down to about a third. So if we break this piece into thirds like this, we can say, okay, the top of the ear comes down all the way to this corner, second third, and then it continues down like that. Something like that. So looking at the 2 earpieces side by side on the model, it seems to me that the shortened chipped ear is also cut a third down, so it's like 2/3 of the ear and then a third is missing. Something like that. And then this area is going to get cut off. So now, let's go ahead and start trimming these earpieces. How we're going to do this is usually I just like to start in the corner, cutting a big chunk off, and then cutting another chunk off, and going smaller and smaller. That will be the corner ear, right? And then we do that for all the sides. Alright, so now we have our ears done. This is what they kind of look like. Rounded off on the sides. Well, we rounded off the corners. Now we have to round off the sides, if that makes sense. And what we're going to do that is we're just going to cut in and around, just like this. All the pieces. Just like that. And then if you think you need to clean it up a little bit more, you can. Something like this. So now you can see that it's kind of rounded off. And we're just going to do that for all the sides of the pieces. So let's go ahead and do that. So now we have our earpieces. And this is what they look like. Okay, so the next part of the puzzle here is to decide where all the damages on Springtrap are, and then start cutting those out. We'll start with, I think, the face. Again, I've only printed out, I'm missing one piece, which is the smaller ear, which I will use the 3D model for.
And if you want to like look at a 3D model and see how it's damaged, go to Sketchfab and then just look at the help wanted model. Okay, so let's start out with his face, right? And those are all the holes in Springtrap's mask. It's now time to cut them all out. That took quite a while, but check it out. Now, we're getting to Springtrap, okay? Mask here. Whoa, look at that. Doesn't that look cool? It looks like Springtrap. Really, it's what makes the character, you know? The green color, the corpse inside, and all the damage. It's a really great character design. Let's see here. So here is our corpse, or skull, right? And of course we have the Springtrap mask on top of it. And then you see the corpse inside. Isn't that cool? We're now going to go ahead and start on the jaw. The jaw is the least bit damaged. It's only damaged around like the teeth and stuff, so let's start with that. Alright, so it seems like the damaging on the jaw is pretty much done. I think what I might do is kind of try to like curve in the sides a little bit more, just so it keeps its like shape, if that makes sense. Because it's like almost perfect. What I'm gonna do is right here on these slits, I'm just gonna cut them again. And then cut a little triangle so it's more like that. We'll glue that in a little bit. Next thing we're going to focus on are the ears. Let's go ahead and draw the damage on the ear. Again, it's more just about looking at like a picture, or like if you're on Sketchfab and you're looking at a 3D model, you can see how it's damaged. Now I have all the earpieces drawn out, so let's go ahead and cut them out. We're not going to cut too deep. We're going to cut deep enough to get the general shape. Definitely just want to get the general shape. And then we'll start tugging out some of the foam here. So now you can see that we've already got a sizable chunk missing from Springtrap's ear here. We have the ears, and we've cut all the chunks out of them so they all look withered and such. Same with this more decayed, broken off ear. So yeah, I think we have all the exterior pieces of Springtrap completely done. So let's go ahead and move outside. Alright, so here we are outside. We've got some black spray paint. And the reason we've got spray paint and we're spray painting things is because when I go to cut the fabric, I want the insides of the ears and all the insides of the cuts and stuff to be black. I don't want it to be the white EVA foam. You know, I want it to be dark, you know? So, we're going to use some black spray paint along the edges and the interiors of stuff. So anything that's really the exterior, it doesn't really matter how much paint we get on it as long as we get the edges and the interior. Alright, so we now have all the parts painted. Pretty sure we painted everything good. So let's go ahead and go back inside and wait for all of these parts to dry. Okay, so let's work on something else. We're going to start working on the interior parts of Springtrap. We're going to try to do something realistic but also a little bit stylized where, of course, this skeleton is already stylized. It has these furrowing brows, making it look a little bit creepier, but we want something where the brows are kind of turned up and will look a little bit creepier. I'm going to put a picture of what Afton's corpse looks like right here on the side of the screen. So now we're going to take these small pliers and I'm going to try to cut the brows off.
Alright, so in this next section, you're going to see me try to cut through the thick plastic of the skull mask with two tools that you shouldn't be using to cut through thick plastic. I'm using very tiny armature wire cutting pliers and a pair of dull scissors. Please do not do this. Learn from my mistakes, okay? You're watching this as like a tutorial, so here's a teaching moment. Use a Dremel or a pair of cutting pliers or something. I, for the life of me, couldn't find either, even though I own both. And I still wanted to make this video, and in the end, it did turn out okay, but if there was anything I could go back and do better, go ahead and use something that makes it easier to cut through the plastic of the skull mask. Or maybe you have a different type of skull mask that's a little bit thinner in plastic, but I still highly recommend use a Dremel with a small cutting wheel or a pair of cutting pliers or anything that just cuts better than a pair of scissors and these tiny armature wire cutting pliers. So yeah, learn from my mistakes. Don't do what I'm doing.
And I finished painstakingly cutting through this stupid thing. My scissors destroyed themselves, okay? And my pliers broke as well. My tiny armature wire cutting pliers. But how could I have done this better? Use a Dremel. But I have not a clue where my Dremel is. Would I have used a Dremel? Yes. I think that makes more sense. But I do not have the said Dremel. So we're destroying scissors and stuff. Don't do that, okay? If you have a Dremel or something that'll cut through the plastic easier, use that. So now we've got to a point where we're going to use some sandpaper and fix up our edges here. I'm going to kind of scuff up the finish. I know. Somebody put some nice time into putting on the finish of the skeleton. This red finish. That's even the reason I bought it. But the more I'm looking at it, the more I'm just like, it's okay. I'll just paint over it. I'll fix it. No big deal. So, I'm going to go ahead and glue the eyebrows back onto the front of the skeleton. Cool. So check it out. Now, I'm just going to fill in some of the gaps with some hot glue. Okay, you may be asking yourself how we're going to fill in this gap here. And to that, there's a very simple answer, and that's just EVA foam. We're just going to fill it in with some EVA foam. So, check it out. This is the skull so far. For at least mine, at least. I've kind of rounded it at the top here. That way. Can round the front here. Then we're just going to kind of trim the top here. Let me get another piece of EVA over here. Springtrap's corpse, or Afton, I guess, has such a haunting expression on his corpse, you know? He's got this very worried look. So I kind of want to replicate that to the best of my abilities here. And we're just really just pushing things till they fit, you know? So let's go ahead. We'll go like this. I'm just eyeballing it. I'm freestyling here. Cutting pieces till I think they look pretty good. So again, if you're really following this skull part of the tutorial, I mean, it's really just about you know, however you cut it. I cut it kind of like cheesily, you know, and then I move the eyebrows up, and now I'm just kind of rounding them out. Still trying to round out this middle part a little bit better. Maybe put something behind it to help it. Alright, so check it out. It's just about trying to match that shape. I'm going to try to put them side by side together. You can see he's got this very grim expression. And of course, I could cut up and like do that kind of shape it has on mine, but I decided just to go along with this idea, just to keep it simple. Super grim, I like it. Okay, here's the deal. I got some latex gloves, right? Which we're gonna put on, and glazing spot putty, okay? Botto spot putty is really nice because it's like you know, filler for like cars and stuff, you know? Anyways, it's really nice because we're going to use it to just cover in all of, what's it called? A lot of our loose detail around the brows and stuff. Definitely along the nose bridge. Really get it where we need the detail. Just by tapping. And it's a really good thin filler, is the point. Again, Afton is a corpse, right? So It's okay if it's not super smooth or anything. I'm even, tapping it so it doesn't give off a smooth finish. It's gonna give off this very lumpy, bumpy, wet finish on the entire skeleton. So, and that's really what I'm trying to go for here, a corpse. So we're using thick bits of it in places that need it, around the eyebrows, definitely on this nose here. There's not really any tutorial to this. There's just a bunch of, tapping it, spreading it around, making it look kind of moldy, But look at that. Wow. It really makes the difference. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the result here. Let's leave that to dry. Alright, so we brought all of our pieces of Springtrap in from outside. So the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to use this green fabric, okay? Now this particular fabric is called Anti-Fill Plush Fleece. I use it for all my stuff. There's two sides of it. One side that looks kind of, like a plush toy, and one side that's more rough. It's more looks more like felt. So there's this fleece plush side, felt. I don't know if you guys can tell the difference. How we're gonna do this is I'm gonna start by gluing the fronts of the pieces down like this, right? And then once they're glued, I'll cut them out, and then we're going to glue the backs, and then we will glue a strip of fabric that will go around the sides, if that makes sense. Okay, let's do it. So we already have our fronts and backs of the pieces. We're gonna make the ears like we're gonna cover them first, and then we're gonna go back and cut a hole for the connection point, if that makes sense, where the ear is gonna connect. Now, something I always do is I always try to have the seam line for the ear in the middle here, right in the middle of like the bottom of the ear or whatever. But this ear has a giant hole here, so what we're just going to do is we'll just go ahead and it doesn't really matter where our seams are because he's got a bunch of holes missing. Figure out how we're going to glue the sides here. So what I like to do is pull the fabric back a little bit, put some glue in between the two pieces, and then just push them together like that, right? And it's gonna make, you're gonna start to see a seam line form, So pull it back, put some glue, and push them together. Okay, so essentially that's all we're going to do for the rest of the pieces. So let's go ahead and do that. So we finished doing all of that, so let's go ahead and cut off the excess of these pieces here. Now I'm not too worried about these seams looking too clean or whatever, because remember, we're talking about Springtrap here. So check it out, look at how that's gonna look. So we already painted it black on the inside and stuff, right? And now, there's some areas that just need a little bit more glue. And now it's all just about, you know, cutting the jagged pieces out to make sure that no fabric is doing this where it's like hiding the hole, you know. So we go around and kind of try to cut out the pieces here. Alright, and that is the first piece of the ear pretty much completed. I'm trying to see if there's any other gaps and stuff. There seems to be a gap right here. Just trying to find all the pieces, you know? And because there's fabric on it now, you know, it's about feeling around. And, of course, we can relate back to our model here. It seems like this hole should extend upward. Oh. Look at that. There we go. There it is. Now we have our 2 earpieces. This is the front, the top of the ear. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for the rest of these ears. Again, it's all just about going around the edge to trim it down, you know. Once you've trimmed it down a bit, we can go ahead and start tearing into it with all the holes that we already made previously. I also glued like along the edges of these pieces, like when I went to glue the fronts of them, just so there would be glue already holding the fabric in place for when I went around to cut it. So the fabric doesn't want to pull back too far because I already glued it down around the holes, if that makes sense. Alright, so now we have all the ear pieces finished, and I gotta say, I'm very, very happy with how they turned out. For the face, we're gonna have to get a little creative on how we're gonna do it. Of course, what I like to do to start is I'll take the fabric and I will just try to blanket the piece, you know? Try to have enough fabric that I can just wrap the whole thing in this direction. I don't know though, you know how much fabric we need? We definitely need all of this, you know? As long as it can cover the entire head in one piece. Let's start with kind of the forehead, if that makes sense. We're going to start right, we just want to glue down some of the fabric, make sure it's, of course, the right side that we're going to be using. And we're going to pull everything towards the back. We want to make the front as smooth as possible, which means that we are also going to start going down the center of the face here. Next thing we're going to want to do is continue across the muzzle. Remember, we're trying to continue that we want it flat kind of thing, you know? Going around the eye here, across the side of the face, and then once we get to roughly the middle, I'm going to say this split here is kind of the middle of the mask. We will stop and do the other side. And then of course, let's pull all of it back and let's do the top of the head all the way to this line here. What seems to be the same center line. We'll go across, and again we are gluing around the holes. Pulling nice and flat right across the top. Trying to hide all the wrinkles in the holes themselves. Now we can move on to the back. Again, pulling flat down the center. So I'm just gluing a rectangle, straight rectangle down the center of the mask. So, watch. We're gluing on one side, we're gluing on the other side. Straight down, and then ending it off. This is our straight rectangle. Pulling it from either side to make sure that it is, in fact, straight. Now we're getting to a point where it is difficult to kind of see where, how we can pull this. So, what I'm going to do is, we can say this is our center seam, and we're just going to cut an inch or like half an inch away, just like this. We're going to cut up. And then, we already know that this is all excess, so we can cut right here. And this will give us a lot of opening towards the back of the mask. So that way we can put some more glue down. They're big flat areas. So we're not going to try to use too much glue here. We are going to try to make it as straight as possible. Remember? Anywhere where the fabric's trying to crease up, I'm trying to pull that to either the bottom or where the ear hole comes in, so that way we don't have to have that crease. But it seems like this crease in particular is inevitable and wants to crease really, really bad. Nope, I think I could fix it. Okay, we're going to hold back our excess fabric. We're going to put down our glue here. Alright. And we're going to pull over. Now let's do the same on the other side. It's a matter of cutting off the excess. So here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to go ahead and glue this center seam together. Okay? And how we're going to do this is, first we're just going to put some glue in between, and of course push the two pieces together. And if you wanted to, you could, while the pieces are really close together, the fabrics, you could put some more glue right down the center of it. Really get those fabrics to kind of stick together. Just like that. Just putting some glue in the seam, pushing the fabric together so we can see where all the ends of the fabric are. And we're going to cut off some excess, not all of it. See how I'm still leaving like half an inch? We're going to cut along just like so. See, I'm still leaving that half an inch of space. It's important if we want to glue some of the fabric. See how, look, we still need glue on that edge. But the reason, and I don't want to burn my hand trying to glue it, so I'm leaving myself some clearance so I can hold the fabric and glue it in place. Also, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I put this small piece of EVA, and I put it here because the mask was kind of warping a little bit, so I just put it there, but I just did that to help. So, here's what we're going to do now. I'm going to go ahead and start cutting out the withering and cutting a little closer to the mask here. Check it out. Because we painted it black, you can see that all the edges are going to be this clean cut, like black here, you know? Okay, now we have the entire head mask part completely covered in fabric. That took forever, by the way. It's gotta be weird because I have a bunch of hair, but look at that. I'm Springtrap. What? I'm Springtrap. Look at that. Wow. Okay, so for the jaw, how we're gonna do this is because the jaw is like a weird shape, it's like this curve, you know? We can't just cut a straight piece. So what I'm gonna do is try to blanket it as well, right? Of course, giving a little bit of space, and then we're gonna go ahead and just cut this square down and around, just like that. And this will be enough fabric to get the whole jaw covered. So let's go ahead and glue. Let's glue this down. Okay, so now we finally have all the pieces of Springtrap covered in fabric. And yeah, so far I think it's looking really good. It looks like Springtrap for the most part. Of course, he needs his teeth and other features. And so let's work on those other features, alright? Earlier, we cut the styrofoam ball in half. And these are going to be the eyes. We're going to save these for later because we got to make the iris of the eyes. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some glass cabochons. The one I'm using seems to be an exact inch. So I printed out Springtrap's eye texture on a piece of paper. And so what we're going to do is we're going to glue the glass cabochons onto the paper with some tacky glue. Just a dot will do. So here are the 2 dots of glue, and then we're just going to use the cabochon to push it down and smear the glue around a little bit. Alright, same thing with the other. If you're going this route, make sure to center the cabochon to the best of your abilities, and then we're just going to set that off to the side to dry. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to use this EVA foam. That's a little bit thicker than what we have been using. The EVA foam that we've been using for the entirety of Springtrap's head is 3 millimeters. I think this is 5 millimeter. We're going to use it for the endo pieces. Springtrap's endoskeleton seems to be built out of like bars that are just like straight parallel lines, and then of course it hooks up in the back in a hinge for the ear, and then it continues down for these bars that go into his head. We're going to go ahead and cut the bar that's going to go through the ear, and we want to make sure that it is the right thickness, so I'm going to say that the bar is like 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to kind of eyeball it to go straight up. And I'm going to cut a very, very long strip all the way up the foam. Trying to keep it as straight as possible. I'm just doing a quick cut. I'm going to get some even thicker EVA. This is just a scrap. This is of a foam floor placemat piece because it's textured on one side. It's supposed to be like a puzzle that you put together. And I'm going to use this to make some parts that are going to stick out of the ear. I want it to be this thickness. And then, of course, for the actual earpiece here, we're going to go ahead and cut a hole into the pre-existing ear. And I'm just cutting a slit into the ear here, so that way I can, stick the foam in there. Something like that, right? Where the ear is attached like so. and I kind of like the texture. It looks almost like metal. So I am going to kind of keep that texture when putting the ears together. Something like this. I think it's pretty good. I cut this piece into another part. So I'm noticing some parts of the ear and stuff that are going to be like have rods in them and stuff. And to do that, what I think I'm going to do is first I'm going to paint this, and along with the other pieces that I'm making here. To do the top ear piece, I'm going to cut a part that isn't as thick. So for the top ear, I'm just bending a piece, and we're going to glue it in so that way it has the ear kind of like lean over, if that makes sense. It won't be as strong. It won't like stick up straight all the time. It'll be more bent because the weight of the ear will pull it down a little bit. These two pieces, definitely this piece for the ear. I'm going to cut another strand out of this EVA that's going to go longer than the top of the head here. So I'm just going to use this piece as a like reference kind of thing. And I could say that, okay, from here to here is the kind of length of the head. So I'm going to just go ahead and cut my piece. Of course, I want it a little bit thicker, so I'll kind of double. I'll just cut it all the way across and save this for later. Let me go ahead and say, okay, from here to here is how long I want the piece. Let's say I want it from, from cheek to cheek, kind of. And then we will cut the piece from right here. So we have 1, 2, we'll even paint this piece, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces that we're going to paint. So next we're going to move on to the teeth, and for that I'm using the same 5mm EVA, but this time it's in white for the teeth, you know. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut material off the top here. So let's go ahead and design one tooth, right? We can see that one tooth is about almost the corner to the middle here, roughly. I could confidently say that this is about the size of one tooth. And Springtrap's teeth are kind of angular, if that makes sense. So they're not like a perfect square or anything. They kind of like have this, what's it called? Where it's longer at the top than it is at the bottom. So let's go ahead and do that. And so now I can go ahead and go, okay, I want to make this tooth like this and like this. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just using my tooth to kind of cut a pattern where each one already has the slant in it. And so now that I've already cut one end to be the slant, I just have to worry about the other end copying the slant. Alright, so now I have all my teeth laid out in the order that I want them. So let's go ahead and we will save these for a second because I want to go ahead and take all these parts outside and get them ready to paint. And as they dry, we can work on gluing the teeth. Here we are outside with our pieces that we have cut. What we're going to do is just, I have some metallic spray paint. I have some red spray paint, and I have some white spray paint.
Hey everyone, it's me, Justin, from editing the video. You may notice that I am spray painting the mask white in this section, and you don't have to do this because later on I painted over it in red, and I thought the white would like kind of speckle through, you know, because like your skull is kind of like white, yellowish, you know, bone color. But it didn't really work out. I just painted the whole thing red anyway in the end. So you can kind of like skip this step. I would not do this. Our first step is to shake our spray paint. We don't want the pieces super gray. We kind of want them to just look a little bit metallic. Just a light dusting should do it for these pieces. That's that for the spray paint on those pieces. You can see that is a little bit metallic, a little bit more of just the black foam. And that's great because we want it to be this dark metal. We don't want it super sleek, metallic. We just want it to have those hints of metal in there. And so now let's start with our white. Again, since we're going to cover most of this up anyway, I'm okay with not trying to do a thick layer on this. What we're going to do is let those pieces dry. So now we're back inside, and we can go ahead and start gluing the teeth of Spring Bonnie. Guess what? With how big we made the jaw, those last teeth don't even fit. So we'll just not need them. But otherwise, I think Springtrap's teeth are pretty cool. Look at that. What? He's got teeth now. Something Springtrap really is missing is his big nose. And I'm going to use some of that 3mm black foam. I've cut it into a circle here. This is a scrap from another project, but I'm just going to try to sketch out what I think Springtrap's nose kind of looks like. So I'm looking at it. It's kind of awkward. It's not like a perfect shape of anything. Alright. Now this is a tricky part, just gluing it right in place. Somewhere like right here. Something like that. I have this green foam sheet. You can get it for 99¢ at like Michael's or a craft store or something. And what we're going to use this for is just for the bits of the inner ear. Yeah, I think that looks like the thickness of the inner ears. So we're just going to go ahead and cut a piece for the small ear, and then we'll cut this piece in half for the other pieces. So for this, I'll just go ahead and round off the bottom. I think I need to make it a little bit thinner, and then we'll just go ahead and round off the bottom, top here. So we're just going ahead and kind of creating the inner ear shape, if that makes sense. Something like that. It gets cut off here, and then goes down like this, and like this. And we're going to glue it down like this. So let me go ahead and put some glue where I think the ear is going to go. And then what I'm going to do is just cut off the excess here. There we go, something like that. So we have that inner earpiece. It's been kind of damaged and roughed off.
check that out. There we go. So we have the two earpieces like this. Last one is this smaller earpiece. There we go. Something like that. And then of course, we need to create our slit at the bottom here to connect our ear to the head. So now the paint has dried on the skeleton, right? It seems to be pretty dry. So now we're going to hit it with this red spray paint. It's a bright red skull, so, you know, we're going to do the dark wash thing. I think that's going to work better. But for now, we can go ahead and bring our metal pieces inside while we let this red dry. So, now we have our pieces again. So let's go ahead and start gluing them into place. We're going to start with our two pieces that are going to make up the bottoms of the ears. I could say that this one is a little bit thicker than this one, so we're going to use that for the bigger earpiece here. All we have to do is really just pour some hot glue into the gap here, and then press this piece into the ear. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, okay, I kind of want some endo piece right in here, if that makes sense. Maybe a little bit less. Something like that. See? Now look, I've cut a small hole in the top of the earpiece here, where I'm going to put my my piece that's going to connect to the top ear, like this. So let me go ahead and, there we go, just like that. And then I can go ahead and put some glue in the hole for the upper ear here. Ear has been kind of built. Just that simple. We do want a piece for this top ear here. So I'm going to put some glue on the top here, just like that, on the bottom here, and then we'll just go ahead and glue it into place here, just like that. Nothing really else to it, just really trying to figure out how we're going to glue these supports in and pieces and stuff. You see some little excess piece that we cut off from trying to trim down this piece. I'm going to glue it into the back here of this piece here. Just like that. Okay. Let's go ahead and do this ear. So we'll just put some hot glue in the hole here. Of course, push the rod into place here. So I'm just putting in some pieces here to make the inner ear. Putting a little brace on the back here. Check it out. It's pretty cool. And these are for both the ears here. Go ahead and glue this part right inside like this. And we're going to attach the ears to it. check it out. There we go. We've got our metal brace here. And as for how we're going to attach the ears on here, it's just a matter of really trying to figure out how to cut the end here. So, something like that. Just like that. We're going to glue it down. And I want the ears to kind of angle outwards. Looking at a lot of the most iconic Springtrap reference image, his ears are kind of angled away from each other. So I'm gonna try to replicate that. Okay, so I'm really trying to glue this piece on, and I just glued the fabric of the ear to the brace as well as the actual earpiece, and that seems to be holding all right. Same thing with the other side. We're just gonna glue. I'm gonna try to cut towards the angle here. We're gonna put some glue on the corner. Oh my goodness, ta-da, look at that. And the ears stayed on. What? Isn't that cool? Look at that. Check it out. I'm very happy with this, by the way. And then we have the bottom jaw here. Yeah, that's right. We're Springtrap. Always come back. What? The next thing we're gonna do is take a scrap piece of foam, just like this, and we're gonna start to really weather down, like what's it called? Our pieces here with some black paint. I also brought this plastic cup with water because we're gonna do a kind of dark wash. Okay, and then we'll just go ahead and start dabbing it onto the skull here, just like this, into all the areas like this. Just a drop should do, yeah. And then we'll go ahead and mix that around a little bit. Whoops. I think my sponge soaked up most of it, but now we can go ahead and start really just rubbing it onto the skull here. I'm very happy with that because I got that like dark red color back. So, very happy about that. Very happy. Using the same sponge, I kind of really want to use it to weather the suit a lot. So, of course, I'm going to start with right around the eyes and stuff. Okay, last thing I want to do is I'm going to use the end of this paper towel to do it. I'm going to put some black paint on it, and then really I'm just going to start going around the areas I want to be truly black. There we go. Look at that. So, how are we going to handle the eyes? First, we're going to take our skeleton skull here, right? And what we're going to do is really kind of try to position the eyes so that way they kind of sit where the eyes sit, but leaving a gap for our eyes and our eyesight. So I'm going to try to position them here, right? But I want to make sure that I'm going to get something that looks pretty good. So first, I'm going to try to dot out with a small dot where the center of my eye is going to be. So now let's go ahead, and the eyes are dry, and because we use the tacky glue, they dried really clear. So let's go ahead and cut those out. Using our dot, I don't know if you can see where I put my dot. I'm going to say that is the center of the eye, so I'm going to press the eye down into where I place my dot. I'm pressing super hard down, and then we're going to use our hot glue gun to glue the eye down into where we pressed it. You see how it's made a kind of mark? Now we're just going to use the hot glue to glue our eye in to place. Now, let's go ahead and do the same thing for the other eye. Now we can go ahead and glue these pieces on. Put some hot glue on the top of the eye, where the eyes sit, and just glue in the eye in just like that. Look at that. Isn't that creepy? Same thing with the other eye. And I have to admit, that is super creepy. And these aren't supposed to be Afton's eyes. I did a poll, and a lot of people believe that the eyes of Springtrap are like the costume eyes. And I really like that idea. So we're going to say that these are part of the Springtrap like mask, like Spring Bonnie, and not Afton's eyes, if that makes sense. The last thing I'm going to try to do, while this sponge is still a little bit wet, I'm going to try to like just around the edges of the eye, make them a little bit more dirty, if that makes sense. Go ahead and wipe in it a little bit. Make the eyes not super clean or anything, you know. I'm trying to attach the jaw, like the Afton head and the Springtrap jaw together. I think, well, maybe it might just work as is. So let's go ahead and try to do that. So gluing Afton's chin didn't really work, but I'm going to show you guys what I did. I cut out these like small rectangles, and I glued it to the corner of his chin, behind one of his teeth. Same thing on the other side, right? So behind one of his teeth there is a small rectangle, and then behind the other teeth there's a similar, even smaller rectangle. If you can see in the back, it's glued right parallel along with the mask on either side. So there is the rectangle behind the tooth, and then a secondary rectangle, and it follows the corner of his jaw, Afton's face. This is the solution I came up with after some trial and error, and I don't want to tutorial you guys on something that I found didn't really work. And also, it helps an issue where the jaw seems to like want to like curve. I'm actually going to go ahead and put some glue, like kind of glue just the ends of the teeth to the Afton's face as well. So there's a little bit of glue on the tooth there, and we're just going to push it to Afton's face. So now on the other side, you can see that it's glued to his chin here. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. There we go. This will also help with the curve of the jaw here. Alright? Other thing, I'm going to use this last little strand here and put some glue dots on the ends, because I want to make those like spring lock like bars and stuff here across the bottom of the face here, just like that. And then the other side I'll go ahead and do. And then with this big piece here, I'm going to cut it down to a small like strip. And we're going to take our skull piece here, and really I'm just going to glue these strips down the forehead here like this. There we go. And then but I'm really happy with how Afton's corpse kind of looks. And then also, out of our scraps, or like strips of foam, I've gone ahead and cut a strip and a small little triangle for the 2 bars that go through like his mouth. So there's a bar on either side of his face, one here, and a little triangle poking out, little triangle, bar poking out. There we go. Again, huge thank you to everyone for over 10,000 subscribers. I really appreciate you guys taking some of the time out of your busy lives to come join me and watch me create stuff. It is just so awesome to me, and I love creating masks and puppets and stuff, and I want to create more videos for you guys. I was super late to when I initially got 10,000 subscribers, but I would rather release something that I was proud of and that was interesting and really cool rather than something that was quickly just me saying thank you. I wanted to make this a big, huge thing because you guys deserve it. So I hope this video was worth the wait, and you can let me know that by smashing that like button and leaving a comment down below on what you guys would like to see next. I really try to read through a lot of comments, so please keep leaving them. I like seeing them, I like reading them. Also check out the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 song, I've Come Back, that was featured in this video. Thank you again to Micah Huge and Astildi for voice acting, the phone guy, and Springtrap in the opening segment. Thank you all for 10,000 subscribers, thank you all for watching, and of course, subscribe, or I'll tell your mom!